that can radically shift the way you experience reality and get you to a state of Buddhahood. And so we've covered a whole bunch of the guide, like where it came from, and the sort of steps towards overcoming the things that prevent us from having that state. And we're on this last chapter, the chapter on wisdom, the second last chapter on wisdom, which is really about you, about being able to understand fundamentally how things exist truly, which include all the things we talked about before, all the methods to overcoming the troubles of this world, and the other perfections, right? And it started hard, this chapter. And remember, at this point in the story that Master Shantideva told, it got so hard that he flew away. He was disappearing from, wow, nice, hi. We have a multi-realm class today. Steve, look behind you. Meet the new guy. So it got hard thinking about these things because these things are not the way we experience our world. But experiencing the world the way we're experiencing the world leads more of this world. Keep going in the same way you've always gone, you're going to get the thing you've always got. That includes view. If you persist on looking at the world a certain way, you're going to experience the world that way. So this chapter, don't fly away. Don't let the words fly away from you. Hold on to dear life. Because there's something behind the words that if you get it in a millisecond. You don't get it in the way you think you get it. You get it in an instant, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is what we've been talking about all this time. Like that. When you get it. And then you think you've got it, and then you don't. Yeah. No food. So, understanding that it's the way you understand, you view and experience that creates the way you view and experience. Understanding that deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, at some point things shift. So I invite you for the next couple of hours, we're in the hard part of the Bodhisattva Charvatara. I'm not very clever, and so I'm going to explain it the best way I understood it. But it means that behind my attempts to explain it, there is depth beyond what we imagine. And I can also tell you that the little tiny bit that I got, when you really meditate or place your mind there as you walk around your day, it shifts everything, even a tiny bit. So we'll talk about that a little bit today. So, why are you here? Remember last class we talked about the illusion, and the illusion, when we looked at the definition of the illusion, the thing that appears one way and is another. I asked you to substitute the word illusion for the word your big problem. Whatever your big problem is. It's just one example of all the other things that are troubling you. This answers that. So I invite you, please, to you're in the room for a reason, so connect to that. Yeah. So to begin, we bribe the part of our mind by creating a whole existence out there of perfected world. To say, I create a perfect universe. Imagine a perfect universe as you do the funny hand gestures and the blah blah sounds. And then give it away to the teacher of your choice. If you have multiple teachers, pick the one that's closest to wisdom if you're doing a specific practice. If you have a live 3D teacher or many teachers, offer it to them. Yeah? if you don't know what to do there, because I didn't know what to do there at the beginning, picture your mom, like someone that taught you life. Picture the people that gave you understanding, and give them a perfected universe. And then to the best of your ability, take refuge as think of emptiness. So let's go to
Sashi
Bukir Metokram Riram Yunjin Devim Padi Sangha Shindu Mitevilargi Dropun Nanda Shinlaji Parsha Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamninyatayami
Sangye
Idam Sohi Choknam Lam Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyamsuchi Dagi Jinyang Gipesonam Hi Rola Venchir Samde Druparsho
Sangye
Shiram Soki Choknam Lam Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Daki Jinyang Gipesonam Hi Rola Venchir Samde Druparsho
Sangye
Shiram Soki Choknam Lam Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Daki Jinyang Gipesonam Hi Drola Venchir Samde Druparsho. So take a nice, comfortable seated position, and we're going to do a short meditation just to get our minds ready. So I invite you first of all to find your perfect seat, meaning get your body parked, scan your body, release any tension, any leaning forward, leaning back, any tension on your face. But also see if you can then move on to your mind and just let go of all the things that you don't need anymore. Just for the next few minutes, it's a breeze. You do not have to think about anything that's bothering you from the past or anything that you need to do later. It'll come. You can pick it up at the end of class. It'll be waiting for you, excited to meet you again. So just take a couple of deep breaths. Release any kind of mental or physical tension with the exhale, and get ready to meet your mind. See if one of the last release mechanisms is a tiny smile on the edges of your lips that open up your nostril. So just a tiny smile and a tuck into your tummy just slightly, and then leave it alone. This brings a bunch of joy, coloring your whole meditation. And begin to focus your attention on the breath and the inhale and exhale through your nostril. However you're used to doing it, just observe, don't control. If your mind wanders, just watch it, let it go, or incorporate it into the focus on your breath. Just returning your attention on your breath. See if you can press a little tighter on your breath, your mind and your breath. Now, with a few exhales and inhales, I'd like to invite you to transform the world around you into your perfect meditation setting. Be high up in a mountain, you could be deep in a forest, you could be in a cave or in a room. Just with the inhale and exhale, color and change the experience around you. Imagine yourself in your perfect meditation place. Add as much detail as you can with each exhale and inhale. A breeze, a scent. Incorporate all the movements around you into that environment. See if you can set yourself there firmly and imagine the passing of time around you in that environment. You are firm, time begins to pass quickly. You are meditating. Feel free to observe the changes around you, changing of the days or the seasons. You're firm and meditating. And at some point, invite the teacher to appear in front of you. So in the foreground, seated right in front of you, appears a perfected being, free from cyclic existence, also firm with you, present completely with you. And see if you can scan their body for details, look into their eyes. The shape in front of you, see if you can sense their presence as well, their scent. And meditating with them, imagine if they are free from suffering, if they are like a Buddha or a Buddha, how they perceive you and the world around you. Imagine having no afflictions, complete compassion and love for everything. So get a peek into their view of you and your world. imagine the emotion they are feeling in their heart towards you, if it's complete wisdom and complete love. And it's true and firm. Then in your mind, ask them to always teach you and stay close to you, helping you along your path. And watch them rise and turn to face the same direction you're facing, getting smaller and brighter until they rest at the crown of your head. Equally as intensely perfect. Instant access to wisdom and compassion like you saw it. Then leaving your meditation place in the background, like fading away, but still there in your mind. Return to the room. And when you like, you can open your eyes. Okay. Who was here last class? We know this ritual now, right? Should we do it again? So last class was class 4, and class 4 has a quiz. And the quiz is an opportunity for you to play with each other and talk to each other, so it's not just about Hector talking, right? So I invite you, hey, I invite you to take, who wants to be the boss of taking them around? Thanks, John. Thanks, Cliff. And just get together in groups with people that were here. So put your hand up again if you were here, because this is the interactive part of the class. And see if you can form 3-4 groups together and go through the quiz, and then we'll have a discussion. Yeah. Make sure all your names are on the piece of papers. And if you don't have enough paper, share names. It's really good if you sit next to Paul because he cheats really well.
True.
Yeah. So were you were here last class? Of course you were. You were here as well, right? And do you have the answer keys? No. Sure. Okay, great. I'll return in 10 minutes. Steve, maybe join a bigger group and create a bigger group. Yeah? So help me out. Because you're so knowledgeable. Or get Nick.
Well, there was a long discussion about it. The way that I understood it is that you need
Steve, we go there, maybe. Yes. Maybe you go there. Please.
I read it.
Natural, dissident.
I would like to ask you.
Really?
Yeah, it's really easy. Yeah.
That will try.
Well, I'll
give me a
here.
synopsis.
I'll say it. No, it's impossible.
Okay.
It's not. It's literally not.
I remember
I'll set it here, and then I I'm just like, I want to offer it to somebody.
Yeah, that is-
It's really, I just, it's so weird. I don't feel like it's sitting.
The answer is no.
So it's no, so, or it's permanent removal, it's unfortunate future.
You'll see the sign or whatever it is.
Huh?
I'm walking, I'm literally walking down the street. I
We
missed my
needed
train.
direct
I
perception.
missed the train stop. I got to Spring Street. I was walking, I'm literally reading the house and I was just street. I'm reading the gas station shop. And it's locked. I'm like 4 pages from the house. I understand it inside. People couldn't get out.
Is there any more
Sitting I'll leave it here and I'll think about it.
Relate the 6-step process just to say that
Yeah, it's really nice just to be together. Great.
Six steps.
The six are tendency, which is tendency to me and mine. Second is correct. Return to the actuality.
They fight with each other. I don't
Makes it self-existent. Force to think of his life,
Okay, but I think
One force to action. Your actions to keep karma. Now the whole So,
Yes, somebody.
yes, it's motivates, but it's betrays. What are the more tendency?
It's a little bit more explanation.
Go ahead.
You're born to see yourself as self-existent.
Right, he thinks that is
Yeah. Third one is reside with an attraction to an aversion to tendency. First one is looking forward to. See myself as self-existent. And the second one, that belief goes stronger as we see
Yeah.
And then the third one is about an attraction to an aversion from seeing things. The fourth one is start to grasp liking and disliking people. It's still like the dislike thing. This is the act of liking. And because of that number 5, we collect karma.
Yeah, they said,
Well, the force to action.
well, they don't,
That
the
goes
lower way, said, you know,
Like you to dislike force you
So
to
should
take
we
action.
don't believe you because they're not the first, and then that's how we always believe.
No, it's not just what you like and dislike, and then you're tripping over what you like and dislike. In fact, it's take action.
We do the deed. We do the deed.
Start tearing them.
So maybe that's the trick.
Right.
Which is actually the first step. Self-existent.
Yeah, you may as well test it. Because it's valid. If you run this through.
True commencement, right? Beginning and end. Number 3. state parallel argument as to King David uses to prove to those at the lower
But they
way
have this
that the scriptures of the greater way are
text that were like 25 years old. They verified it. They say they verified it.
People that really are arguing about scriptures, their scriptures are correct because the Buddha spoke them and how they can understand these points. So applying the same studying these scriptures I don't know. That was the point. I put the same work into studying these scriptures.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds good. Something's missing, but it's not.
Right after you do one, and also before you're able to come to understand the meaning and the use of reason. Not even the scripture is no way to show the authority. The same test that is used to establish the scripture. The same test that they use to establish scripture as a whole are used by only on the way to establish the scripture.
Then he's saying that's going to lead to and save something in the future. So that
Which is what it simply is. It's the word of the
like whatever you're doing now, it's like you.
And all kinds of argumentation and debate.
So that should be more scary.
It comes down to
Like saying the way you want should be more scary.
in essence.
But we're missing we need a hint for that.
The parallel argument?
No, the
Or how does Master Shantideva answer the concern that is being applied to
Some self-hatred forms karma, and thus the world is separated. It is in 6 steps. When you were born, you already had karma seeds.
Tendency to grasp
The
and
two
things
tendencies
self-existence
of things
controls that creates every kind of change in the cycle of self-existence. This is what you should follow. And the wisdom which realizes that things become five times
But hold on, so
is wrong from what's a good phrase.
right now I remember this. In the beginning, you believe that things exist of themselves. Right? That's how you.
Seeing is removable now.
But then he said also that it's not necessarily scary anymore. You should just give it a look. Just see it as like these are the steps. Like you just by having this belief that things are self-existent. Yeah. It's easier to
Does the person's case change their ways?
Due to the seeds, you start to have two tendencies to see things.
So what do you always just get them
You begin to see things the wrong way. Some people, because of the seeds, you start studying meditation things.
But there's the seed, there's the tendency.
It's going to scary or suffering. There is, you begin to see things the wrong way.
So they
Things appear to be attractive, others appear to be undesirable.
live without such beliefs
From their own side.
Right. So you start having desire and aversion. Desire and aversion. Right.
Well, the things are attached to the meditation, particularly if you're doing rather intense, and maybe talking about different
Quality,
ground.
particular object, has the quality.
Everything's
of
in
being
may come up as terrorism
or
and all that.
exceptional
Undesirable
guard based on
Yes, that's part of
There's
it.
very things that
Part of the
stop.
Yeah.
So if something
Ice cream
goes
has a
on
nature,
medication,
it's
so
delicious.
medicating
Not gonna
has to
result in
tweak
that.
that. So we live is we
Thinking that it exists.
We're the same. Wake up.
Now, so just thinking
Makes
that
me
there's
think that this body is current.
No matter what
teachers
teaches
you start developing also like
He could just say ingredients and many others have. This is a good sign.
yeah, that was
When they
that was
qualify
the
teachers,
part. You start having a
then
tendency.
you can see it and instruct and can lead you
Yeah,
through
they
this,
have a
because this is what
tendency
the
to
work is.
think.
I'm saying this that we're talking, the things that you're desiring for us.
Yeah, it's that division. It's not just that
You
there's
know,
like
Mr. Jones, does that mean you want to have it, should you go to the store again, or should you seek the help, someone to help?
But I thought the part that it's from the outside is
it is. That's one of the
that those qualities.
Back to the second question, which was the.
judging those qualities.
The 6 points of betrayal, this is what we do.
Seeing that
We
they're
think things are
qualities.
self-existent,
Starting to
more than
connect.
that understanding between and
Good
not.
and bad.
So we have a tendency to do this, you know, think about it. Do you or not have tendencies to do that?
But isn't that?
So anyway, you follow the wheel,
But I
this is
thought
the
we were
point. So
part of that.
as you gain through meditation, you
Yeah,
get to see some of this,
becomes
but
another
it's
step.
Oh, this is.
clear as you.
That's that third.
Oh,
It's not
okay,
the
okay,
memory.
well,
But
Yeah,
what
you're
else is
starting to have
this is the
feelings
world
that
we're
they're-
in. In
So
fact,
what
that's
they
the
do is supposed to take one plan based on this perception of things.
This is about
You can
removing
look at
yourself
ignorance
from ignorance.
and like or dislike.
Developmentally, you must lead
Like or
yourself.
dislike.
What would you do as you are willing and able to do
Then you
it
start.
like that?
Okay, 1 minute.
That's what these classes are.
And then
This is
the
related
next
to
one is
building
to
between.
And the last one is this karma causes you to continue sixth one.
There's some.
Number 5 is we act on those.
Okay, so it says, nothing says for the fifth one is due to the emotions of liking and disliking, you do say or think negative things, like that's the action. So, is the dislike or dislike is where they
Dislike or dislike is the five.
No, it's 4. Fifth one is due to dislike or liking, you do or say or think negative things, like.
You do say it's five.
Sixth one is this karma causes you to continue to circle around in the
Then you get the results.
Thanks, Cliff.
The second one, due to these seeds, you start to have points of seed. Third one is because of this, you see things one way. Some things are too attractive and some just repulsive. And then based on this perception, you feel ignorant, like, dislike, and due to these emotions or the feelings, liking, disliking, you then take actions and do or say things, which is collecting karma. And because of this, you have to go
Okay, let's get to the front. Thank you for doing that. It's so nice to hear you churn through the ideas, and it brings us back to the present. We're talking about present. How's your new contract?
Very good, very
It's
nice.
really nice.
2.9% interest.
I saw. That's
Right.
really cool. Yeah, you're like. Cool.
I did what you said.
You did. Cool. Yeah. Nice.
Saturday.
Oh, that's probably why. Yeah, he'll be fine.
Okay, ready, seti, go. I'm going to go through the questions. Since this is the chapter on emptiness, I want to at least have at least three instances where these ideas are connected to you. Yeah. So one is when I teach it, the other one is when I force you to talk to each other, and the third part is when I force you to talk to me. Yeah. So let's go through the quiz together and go through just to make sure we've all got the right answers. What was the first question? I didn't have it. Of the quiz that we just answered.
Is it true that a person can remove their mental afflictions and thereby reach nirvana solely through a good understanding of the 16 aspects of the four truths of a realized being?
Right, so do you remember that argument, right? So the whole chapter begins with this debate between different philosophical positions at the time, and Master Shantideva is debating them in this chapter through the PO point of view of Majjhimika Prasangika. Yeah, the high school, the one the Dalai Lama studied, teaches, Ken Rinpoche, and the school you're sitting in right now. Now, why have that argument is because as you deepen your understanding of what you're trying to understand, you're going to come up with these arguments for your own, of your own. And then when you come up there, you've got some fodder, is that the word? Yes, some food for thought. So there was a school, the Hinayana school, who said the 16 aspects of the Four Noble Truths are these 16 things that are understanding impermanence, are understanding suffering, etc., etc. Really, it's the Four Noble Truths in more depth. If you meditate on them and really work on them, and you really get them, then you can reach nirvana, right? That's what they're saying. Master Shantideva says, no. They're actually a result of a peak experience called the direct perception of emptiness, and only then can you begin to really remove your mental afflictions. And he talked about two types of seeds, do you remember? Two types of mental afflictions. His argument for saying that's not the case. You don't just learn these 16 things and just work on them, and then ta-da, you're in nirvana. You actually have to have a experience of something, this ultimate reality. You need to touch that experience, and that will lead you to have a visceral understanding of those 16 things. You guys got it backwards, he said. And his reasoning for that was, do you remember the reasoning for that? There were two types of mental afflictions. One was manifest, like when you're angry, it's already here, right? The karma manifest. And the other one is dormant, latent. So you can sit there and not be angry. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. That doesn't mean you've gotten rid of your angry seeds. Yeah, I can't remember the metaphor he used. Yeah, he used the metaphor of that state of meditation that's called just having brain freeze. What's one of the 5 skandhas, the one that discerns?
There wasn't no more discernment?
Yeah.
I think it depends whose system, it's perception or compounded mental phenomena.
The one about discernment, the one about being able to discern.
I think it was called that.
The meditation where no more discernment occurs or something.
Yeah.
He's saying when people go there and go really deep to that state of meditation, they don't have any anger or frustration, but when they come out, then they do. So really perfecting it in a nominal way or an external way does not mean you don't have the seeds for that to occur. So that theme's going to come up in today's class. So I wanted to touch on the fact that when you have experiences in your life, if you're ever angry or happy or whatever, just because they have stopped out there manifestly, does not mean you've gotten rid of the seed for that to occur in the future. You have to do something else to change that. And the debate is you have to have this experience of wisdom, this direct communion with ultimate reality. So, what was the next question? Did we all understand that? Is that cool? Yeah.
relate the six-step process described by Maitreya, which links the failure to perceive emptiness to the suffering we must go through. Tibetan track in Tibetan.
No one's doing Tibetan track. So they can do it in Tibetan. So let's just simply understand, if you slow down perceptual time, then it's actually a reduction of this 12 links of dependent origination by Maitreya, right? It really is a fast track through consciousness and form and form and feeling and so on, not actually before feeling. So contact. What are just simply the 6 steps? The first one is
The karma you're born in.
you're born with this, you come with a train full of ignorance, meaning not you're an idiot, it means you appear in this planet as a being already with this propensity to see things a certain way. We're calling that ignorance because it's not knowing, misknowing, misunderstanding how things truly are. And the way truly are is the wisdom we're talking about. So you're already colored in your view of looking at the world as you come in there. So we're slowing it right down, so don't get confused, right? So because you appear that way, you are here that way, you start in this time this way, what happens? Second, number 2.
Grow stronger over time.
You grow stronger over time, and you then have this, they call that the mere mind, right? But you have this, what's the second one?
Actuality.
You actually have those seeds in you, right? So you have the propensity, and you have that kind, you actually have a beginning manifest of that ignorance in your view here. What's the third one? Because your lenses are colored with that stuff in your train, I'm using so many metaphors just to see who can keep up with any of them. Because your rose-colored glasses are loaded in your train to see things in a certain way, the faster you go forward. What's the third step? See if you can keep up or play.
Something that forces us to believe that we are self-existent.
So I said glasses for a reason, because you
It's a confirmation.
start to see things that, oh, that's nice over there, that's not so nice over there, and you, with the colored glasses that you have the propensity, and then they're built into glasses, now you have that view. Everything you look has this I like, I don't like view about it as coming from its own side. Yeah? That's nice, therefore the niceness is over there, I want it. Yeah? So it appears nice. We haven't gotten to the wanting yet, right? So we slowed it right down. You come with these seeds manifest into a kind of ignorance that is latent in you. Then you see things through that lens, number 3. Yeah? Because you see things as attractive or unattractive, good for you or bad for you out there, nothing to do with you. That's the ignorance. Nothing to do with you. Then what happens? Huh?
Don't you sow more
You
seeds?
like and dislike
Yeah.
them. Yeah? Oh, that's good. That's going to be good for me. That's going to be bad for me. Ignorantly. Yeah? Huh?
Desire and aversion.
Exactly.
You want them, or you want to get rid of them.
Exactly. And then, because of that, oh, I like that, I don't like that. Oh, here it is again, I like it, I don't like it. Oh, I like it, I don't like it. Well, what do?
You sow more
You
seeds
do
of
something.
karma.
You reach out for it. You
Oh.
think a certain way, or you say something to try and get it, or run away from it, or you do something to try and get it. It's so quick. So quick. And that means you've planted karma. An action, a deed, is your karma. You've just created a karma. You've created this thing. Who's seen the movie Inside Out? Did you see it?
My wife
Oh,
and
yeah.
daughter went to see it yesterday. They loved it.
You have to go.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sitting
got
there
really
going, oh
excited.
my goodness.
Yeah.
I really want to see
Oh, I'm going to kill it for you, and I'm going to tell you the end. No. Go see that movie. okay, when you're studying emptiness. But because you've created an event, a cause, a karma, and that karma in that seed is colored with the misunderstanding that drove you to that action must then have a result that breaks down like the ignorance it contains. It's like having a radioactive karma, yeah, a radioactive cause that will give you radiation as a result. So the sixth step is, or the sixth explanation of the process is, because you took that action to that thing, it just forces you to have more of the same. Korwa kor, keep going around in circles, which is pun. Yeah, korwa, samsara, kor is circling, like a dog chasing its tail.
What is that called?
Korwa kor.
K-O-R?
Yeah, korwa kor. K-O-R, wa, W-A, kor. And that's, korwa is that. Kor is something.
Is that the wheel of karma?
That's the wheel of life, the Bhava chakra. Yeah, we'll talk about that. The 12 links in the black circle around it, which is the modern version, begins with a blind woman. She's sort of upside down there, and the metaphor is that a blind woman dressed in white, which meant that she was a widower. Yeah, in ancient India, means you couldn't get worse than that, because nobody would touch her, because she was widowed, she was old, and she's blind, and she's walking with a stick by a cliff. Not you. No. Yeah? Because if she was walking by you, you'd probably help her, and then that's not the real life. Yeah? So that implies misunderstanding your world. She doesn't know she's about to fall on the cliff. Yeah? That image of a blind woman by a cliff is misunderstanding your world. It is not understanding how things truly exist. It's ignorance. It's the same as the main animal in the center of the pig. So because we don't see how things truly exist, because we have that coming in, we then create karma and keep doing in circles. If we understood, so the question was, how does that connect with wisdom? How does that connect with the direct perception of emptiness? If you saw, imagine that each of you had an experience that you saw every action that you've been taking, every thought you've had, every word you said that was motivated by the way you saw the world or thought of the world, every action you did to take something or run away from something was fundamentally mistaken, not in a way that you should feel guilty and terrible about. It's just like really practical. Oh my goodness, I've been trying to get eggs out of the cow that I'm milking. It's like, that's not going to work. No wonder I never get eggs through my rose-colored glasses. So I can put on the train. Is that confusing enough? Yeah, we're on? Cool. So do you get the link? If you did understand, you would not, that link would break. You would not begin to have a manifest experience of ignorance, of things appearing as self-existent. If you were in the equation from the beginning, if you truly understand that you are a critical part of your existence and not separate from it, if you understood that, you could not have the idea that something out there, without you ever experiencing it or being there, could have a quality separate from you. You are the creator of that experience. If you knew that, that would not be ignorance. But because you have ignorance, we do korwa kor. If you did know that, if you had the perception of ultimate reality, where you knew that firmly, without doubt, not just intellectually, you knew it as you'd been soaked in it, then you could not see an attractive thing and think that it just appeared attractive out there with nothing to do with me, and therefore I have to do something out there to try and get it. You'd instantly recognize that all the beauty in your world comes from you, and all the trouble in your world comes from you, but not in a way that you are a naughty boy, like I was taught. In a practical way, like I am milking a cow for eggs. Never going to happen. Yeah? It's probably a bad metaphor, but yeah, we get the idea. Now, question number, so we got that, right? Well, of course, we'll perfectly understand my transiting step. Yeah? Cows and eggs and glasses and transferring. Thanks. Next question.
State the parallel argument that Master Shantideva uses to prove to those of the lower way that the scriptures of the greater way are authoritative.
Yeah. Okay, so you remind me, the class, you remind me the why we got there in the first bit. Why are they arguing about whose books are right?
Because they don't believe them on the seeing emptiness directly.
Right, so Master Shantideva is saying you must see emptiness directly, then you're going to have the 16 aspects, and then you're going to have the unraveling of your samsara. You can't do it just by meditating on something and getting rid of your manifest karmas, because you still have seeds. You still have the latent things. So
Does it pass between you also that they say that there's like a non-conceptuality when you're in direct perception of emptiness, so that it's beyond labeling or construction or mental construction of...
it's interesting, you know, because I don't know what you mean, or what you get to when you say does it have anything to do with it, right? The way I'm thinking about it more and more now is I don't want to talk about the direct perception of emptiness because I don't know it that way. And even if you do, as soon as you label it in your mind to speak it, you're going to misrepresent it. All I can say is that post that experience, you reorganize your world because you, as the perceiver of that world, are intricately in it as a reality all of a sudden, not as a conceptual idea, yeah, as a truth. And then you know you'll never get eggs from cow. And so you stop milking cows for eggs.
Which is another reason why I'm thinking on that doesn't make sense, because you can't have a non-conceptual experience if you don't experience direct perception.
If you don't have a direct experience, yeah, you can be told about ice cream all you like, or you can be, like for example, who here has been to Australia? Okay, you can't talk. Who's been to Sydney? Cool, you can talk, okay? I ask you to imagine the Sydney Opera House. The Sydney Opera House is that white thingy, yeah? You've all seen it, right? You're all nodding. That's emptiness directly. Yep, I know about that stuff. Someone's told me about it. I've seen pictures. It's documented. It's something in books. Yeah? Metaphor for a thing, emptiness. Yeah? Can you imagine what the roof of it looks like? What the canopies look like? Yeah? Are there 4 or 5 or 6? Can you imagine it? Do you have a good picture in your mind? You've seen it, right? You've seen it. Do you know whether there are 5 or 6 or 4? Not quite, right? But I've seen it, I can't remember. Now, if I ask you the texture of the white roof, do you know what that is made of? You've all seen the picture though. But to have an experience of that is very different. Do you know what it's made of?
Concrete?
No. The inside is made of concrete. Good guess though, but you see, this is what the whole debate about my scriptures, my books, your books, because we're trying to find out the architectural drawings for the actual...
Canvas. Canvas.
Canvas, no, it looks like it. That's actually Priscilla Queen of the Desert performance, it's made out of canvas. It's actually tiles, shiny tiles, like bathroom tiles, like this big. Right, they're specially designed tiles. So unless you've seen it, you've seen the sun reflecting on it as a direct experience and touched it, you won't know exactly how it's like. Yeah, even those that have seen it from far away, you know, but when you're there and you're constructing it and you're working with it, you have a real experience. That's a very different knowing than the other knowing, the intellectual knowing. So I forgot why I went there.
You can even say...
Oh, because we were talking about why Shantideva says we
Thank you, in a training on glasses. Sorry. Nick, what did you say?
Well, it was more of a question than a statement. Couldn't you even say that, like, the brain, for example, experiences when you fear something, or like when you imagine it, let's say you're fearing something, and then it actually happens. Your brain experiences it the same way. It's like the same fight. It's not a different actual physiological experience. Your brain is firing, and you're expecting fear, or you're like worried something's going to happen.
I'm not sure that's the case. I think the Tibetans would say no. I say they're very different. When you visually imagine, so it's like saying when I'm in a dream and being punched in the face, experience the neurons are firing off the same that I'd be being punched in the face in reality. You know,
when you're in your dream, you're experiencing it just as if you're getting punched.
Right, but then when you wake up, you know it wasn't.
When you wake up, you
yeah.
know it wasn't.
And so
if you got punched in the face when you were awake, and
yeah.
if you got punched in the face when you were dreaming, you might experience that pain as the same level of pain.
I'd say no, because they're two necessarily separate moments. So you have to say they're necessarily different. If you're going down the chemical route, they're different moments of chemical. So I'd say at the end of the day, now we're actually going to get to try and differentiate that in this class. Yeah. So let me finish the review and then we'll get to it. Yeah, let me just finish the review and we'll get to it. So what was that question again?
The parallel argument.
The parallel argument. The parallel argument that he used to say, that's why they got into the fight about the scripture and not the scripture, right? They said, how do you know that the lower way, which is just the sutras, the words of the Buddha, that is believed by the same school that Master Shantideva is proclaiming, they also believe in it, right? So what's the argument? Someone share it with me. The argument is, our scriptures say, we're not listening to your crazy scriptures that say you must see emptiness directly. Because I can't confirm they were spoken by the Buddha. But we know this one's word. And Master Shantideva goes, oh really? How do you know that? Do you remember the argument? He says, because you also believe they're spoken by the Buddha, and that's true, we do. And then Master Shantideva says, so all you need to do is find two idiots to believe the same thing, and all of a sudden it makes it true. Is that right? If two people agree on something, it automatically is correct. And they go, oh no. Well, how else do you know it? He says to them. And they said, oh well, we learned them and then we studied them and they align to the three baskets, to the three trainings. Yeah? They align to the three trainings. Do you remember that? No, you don't remember that.
What they are? Are you asking?
Yeah, no. Do you remember how the argument went about our scriptures, your scriptures?
We tested it, we verified.
That's right. We tested that these sutras are teaching us about the training on morality, the training on concentration, and the training on wisdom. We tested them. And then Master Shantideva goes, well, we tested it too. So you just learned those. You weren't born knowing these sutras. You didn't come out of the womb and all of a sudden goes, I know these sutras. You learned them, and then through trial and error, internalizing, analyzing, intellectualizing, and practicing, you came to believe that these were the Buddha's words. We did too. We thought so too. And we think the Madhyamika, the Mahayana scriptures are also true for the very same reason. They are congruent with the Buddha's teachings. So it's the same proof. So taste it and practice was the answer. And what's the last question? You say last question, or is it two?
How does Master Shantideva answer the concern that meditating upon emptiness might feel a little scary?
Right. Remember I asked, and I was really impressed to hear that about more than half of the class did feel a little fear about the complete deconstruction of your reality if you get too deep in emptiness, right? That's reassuring, because I think that's what you should feel. Yeah? Like as you get closer, if you are attached to me and mine, which is the sickness, right? And you're about to get medicine, the medicine and the sickness don't get along. They don't want to be together. So you're going to feel this sense of, whoa, I don't like that. I'm going to talk about that today as well. So, what was the question again? I just talked
How does Master Shantideva answer the concern that meditating upon emptiness might feel a little scary?
So what was the answer? Do you remember the answer? Like, I want your words for the answer.
It's scarier to live with suffering.
Correct.
It's a really good answer, right? It's scarier to live with suffering, with the misunderstanding, than to actually go for the cure. My grandfather died because he did not want to go to the hospital because he was scared of doctors. He began with a hernia that turned into this massive ball in his crotch, like just grew and grew. He had to get bigger and bigger pants. And I used to remember this crazy old man. He had this thing hanging on the side of his leg, which was the insides, his intestines, I guess. Right? It's disgusting. And he could not be taken to the hospital. He would kick and scream. His sons, my dad, tried to take him. He would like, I'm not going. They're going to kill me. They're going to cut me up. Guess what he died of? Yeah. So it's the same argument. It's like, it's scary to go to the hospital to get that problem out of me. Yeah, it's actually scarier to live with the problem, especially if it's an all-time problem, like misunderstanding existence. Is that the last question?
Yeah.
Are we all on the same page? There's a couple of things I want you to grab from this summary, because right now I'm going to talk about he's still debating incorrect ideas about where things come from. Yeah? Why would he still be doing that? If we sort of debated with the Hinayanas, you know, and all the thoughts that we would go there, we began to debate with the mind-only school, which is the Mahayana school, right? Why would we continue?
It's important to eradicate all kinds of ignorance.
Yeah, so there are layers and layers and layers and layers, and your mind will go. What is it? The Russian dolls that you punch and they go.
Nested. They nested.
They nested.
You open one and there's another one. And
Another, yeah, it's like that. A different metaphor, but same thing.
But that's what Russian dolls are.
Yeah, I know, but what are the things that you push?
They're called weebles.
Huh?
They're called weebles.
Weebles, yeah? Like they have a gravity.
Weebles wobble but never fall.
Yeah, and never fall, right? Because they want to stay there. Ignorance is sort of like that. Like you can push it to this side of understanding ultimate nature of reality, but they want to come back because we've been this way for time without beginning. Yeah? Think about that term. Time without beginning. Master Dharma.
Come back and hit you, actually.
Yeah, actually they could, yeah. So you understand, and then he goes, yes, I got it, and now I'm back, and I understand now. But so we're getting all these arguments. We're going to get to the root of this gravity. Okay, so we're still on incorrect ideas, and we're going to hit the blind woman. Not hit her physically. We're going to hit the idea of the. We're going to hit the blind woman at the Buddhist class. Yeah. No. Sorry, my speech is not great today. Okay. So, Master Shantideva starts this part of the debate by saying there's two kinds of wrong ideas around where we come from and what it is. Yep. And this is two types of grasping to self-existence. Two ways in which ignorance manifests itself. Yeah? Two flavors of it. And the first one he calls Gensin Kunta, which is things are self-existent. You understand things that are self-existent because you learned them that way. They are taught to you. Yeah? You came out of the womb, or before. No, you came out of the womb, and then gradually someone began to convince you that the world is this particular way. So one of the tendencies to see things as self-existent is learned. Yeah, and we have many of those. In fact, the grand majority of our understanding of, if not all of it, of reality is Densen Kunta. It's this kind of learned method for things being out there separate from me, self-existent. This includes the idea that you are your DNA only, that you are made by a creator only, that you are a sum of just your history only, that you are all these things, all the things that your school teacher taught you, that you learned in science class, that we have in the media about why things are, have a limit to them. Do they function? Can you explain part of the world that way? Yes. Is that all of it? No. So most of the way we tend to understand our reality is self-existently out there. And we have so many explanations today. And we've had so many explanations of why the earth and you and me are the way we are for time without beginning. The earth was square. The earth was round. The earth was an orb. The earth was half empty. I mean, these are all physical things, right? You also have mental things. You are your propensities only. Yeah? So this, even Kedrib J, who is that one, yeah? Kedrib J. Yeah. Complained that this kind of ignorance, of misunderstanding things to be self-existent, was prevalent in Tibetan culture at the time. But if you asked most Tibetans, do you believe in past lives, they'll say yes. But not because they understood why. Because mum and grandma and so on also believed it. If you think this way, that explains all of reality, and that's good enough for me. But does it explain everything? No. So one of the two ways of seeing the tendencies as self-existent is this intellectual or learned way. And the next one, actually I'll give you the definition, so because it might come up in your question. Name and define two types of tendencies to grasping the self-existent. So the definition for that, I won't give it to you in Tibetan, is mainly, which is a really good word for debating, because you can always say, oh, I said mainly. It is a tendency to see things as self-existent which always relies upon someone teaching you a belief system and changing your mind that way. And so it's always someone teaching you something and you begin to change your mind towards that. Which means you've rejected a whole bunch of explanations for your reality already as they were presented through time to you. You know? Once upon a time you believed that there was a guy with a big white beard and a red coat that created presents for you, and that made sense to you for a short time. You bought into it, and at some point you did not buy into it, unless you weren't in that culture, and then you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Yeah. That we are forever presented. Don't get sucked into the prejudice that whatever we know today is true and always will be true. They're talking about all of existence, which includes all time. So even the scientific explanation you have today, as accurate as you believe it to be, and as much as it works for us, 98% of the time, will in 100 years be garbage compared to the way we'll think about it later. Just read the scientific journal 20 years ago, forget 100 years ago. The explanation of how we are, it's limited. So don't get hypnotized by the current, we're so clever, right? We are the peak of human understanding. So that is what he's talking about. He's talking about all the stuff you learn, that things are out there self-existent and you can, moving the chairs, you can change your reality, is a type of ignorance. If you have that, you will die. You will die like everyone else will die. Samsara continues for you. He's saying don't get hypnotized by that learned way of seeing things self-existent. You got it? Nearly everything you have in your head is that.
I believe it because so-and-so taught me.
Yeah, we don't have the know-how or the door to begin to question it because we've been constructing it for a time without beginning. It has a fabric to it that seems real, and it functions because we're all sharing in it until it doesn't, and then those people are locked up, thrown away, pass away, and you don't see them anymore because we're working in our jobs today. It's good, and I'm going to be happy. Okay, then you have the inborn tendency, the second way that we see things as self-existent is deeper, deeply rooted. It's an inborn tendency. It's the first step of Maitreya's. You actually, as soon as a being is born in samsara, for lack of a better term, it already has this tendency to see things as self-existent, including amoebas, bugs, puppy dogs, fish. Everything that is in samsara has this inborn tendency to see things as, it has those glasses on. That's why it's in samsara. It's not the other way. It's not that someone is, this is the way I hated understanding it at the beginning. Someone is deciding all those people are ignorant, I better put them in samsara, you know? It's not like that at all. It's the fact that you have a certain condition that you experience samsara. That you experience things as falling apart and fading. And the condition is this inborn tendency to see things out there, self-existent, the opposite of wisdom. Yeah? Hence why we're talking about it here. And it's not an idea thing, it's a very real, so fast happening to you right now, you really think I'm talking at you. I am actually talking at you. You really think that the meaning in these words are coming from these sounds. There's no time for you to think otherwise. You're habituated to think this way. Otherwise we couldn't work. We couldn't do our life. But it's not that way. It's not that way at all. So if you were to be asked the question, define two ways that we have the tendency to grasp things as self-existent. The first one is a taught intellectual way, and the second one is an inborn. Yeah? Let me give you the definition for that before we have a quick break. The definition for the inborn is people who have and people who have not been exposed to belief systems, meaning whether you got the first one or not, yeah? Including dogs now. Both have the tendency to see things as self-existent, and this has been the case for beginningless time. That's part of the definition. You have to do ACI 4 to understand beginningless time. I won't do it now. We don't have enough time. But think of that definition, because I think that is amazing. Beings who either have been taught about atoms or science or karma or whatever, and still hold those things to be self-existent, whether they were taught it or not, those people that were taught it and those people that were not taught it have this tendency since beginningless time. It means, actually, it should give you chills to think that you are learning a method to break that tendency. If you think of the implications, if that's true, so let's imagine that is true, that for beginningless time, minds in samsara have had this forceful tendency to see this ignorant reality that is forcing them to stay suffering. Yeah, in all the forms of suffering. If that's true, beginningless time, then you're sitting in a room considering the idea that there's a door of experience of understanding that can get you out of that. Which means, in your experience of reality, there have been universes that have come and gone, whilst people, beings, without beginning, have been holding this view without exit, no exit. It's a closed loop circle. And you are sitting in a room with a possibility that maybe there's a door. And that requires incredible virtue, like incredible understanding. If you understand it not self-existently, which you will initially, it should give you chills to understand that something happened in your perception to allow you to consider the reality that within you is the power to shift out of a cyclic existence that has no end. It is the most amazing thing that could ever happen to a being to A, have the idea that that's possible, and B, to have a method to make that actual. And then it's like something you have to do. But that's, I think, when they're talking about, when the Tibetans are talking about you are so close to seeing emptiness compared to the zillions of other creatures on the planet. It's like the arrow is about to touch the paper, is that metaphor? You are so close, it's like an archer from a long way away has shot the arrow and you are about to pierce through the paper. Yeah? I'll get to your question in a second, yeah? So, you understand those two, right? The taught tendency and the habitual tongue without beginning tendency. The interesting thing about here in this class in 97 or 97, 98, Geshe Michael taught this. He said if you ask someone that has seen emptiness directly to explain these two tendencies to see things as self-existent, they would give you an experiential explanation of this, not the definitions I showed to you from the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. He would say to remove the tendency, the intellectual tendency to see things as self-existent, the taught tendency, right, the things we learn, a person of the Mahayana track would have to see emptiness directly. So a person that has seen emptiness directly, at the path of seeing, they get rid of the first tendency, the intellect, the taught tendency to see things as self-existent. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah? So at the path of seeing, you remove the things you learned about the world coming from out there. Now, you then come back after seeing emptiness directly and you still experience it that way, but you no longer believe it. So you get rid of that first one. And then the second, the manifest inborn tendency to see things as self-existent, you remove at the 8th bodhisattva bhumi, or level.
Is the proof of the inborn tendency in all beings that the Buddha spoke it to be so?
I don't know the proof. Sorry.
In this text, what that would be.
I can find out, but there's a proof. Yeah? And Maitreya spoke it to be so for the Mahayanas, you could say that that could be the case. Yeah, but all schools believe that. Yeah? So, she's saying is the proof that the inborn tendency exists proved because the Buddha said so. And I would...
You can feel it. Everybody experiences it. That's why it's so hard to write up.
Yeah, but she's saying, can you prove to me the thing? And you can prove scripturally or through logic, you know, in Tibetan debate. So I would say, for Mahayanas, you would say Maitreya taught it. Experientially, you're going to find it out anyway. Until you do find it out in terms of feeling it yourself, it's just an idea. Yeah. I don't know if there's any other logical proof. I'm sure they're researching. Yeah. I want to get to the end, and then can you hold the questions? Yeah, cool. So you get rid of the taught way to see things out there as self-existent at the path of seeing. When you have a direct experience of emptiness, you no longer believe things are coming that way. You now understand that they are coming that way. That you are the architect of the way you experience reality. We're going to cover it after the break. And then the inborn tendency gets broken, and it's interesting because the definition is funny. It says the manifest inborn tendency. Remember, there were two types of karma, the debate between the Hinayanas and Mahayanas. The manifest of anger and the seeds that are still there. So here, in the explanation, they're saying the manifest tendency to see things as self-existent, inborn tendency, disappear at the 8th bodhisattva bhumi, at the 8th level of the bodhisattva path. There are 10, right? But not the seeds, right? So in a Hinayana method, you would say that's nirvana. Then this actual seeds you still have, but they can never ripen because you don't have ignorance. You actually destroy them on the ninth bodhisattva. So Arya would say to you, oh yes, I understand that there are taught tendencies to see things as self-existent, and there are inborn tendencies to self-existence. I got rid of the taught one when I saw emptiness directly. I don't see things that way anymore. I mean, they come that way, but I just don't believe them. They're not truth. It's a lie. It's the illusion. I know that now, for sure. I no longer have those taught things in my mind, and I believe them or hold on to any of them. They are wrong for me. And an 8th bodhisattva, Bhumi bodhisattva, would say, I don't even have the impulse to manifest that things could ever come from me. So the Arya got rid of that through all those bodhisattva Bhumis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's maybe why they say you can take up to 7 lifetimes from seeing emptiness directly to having the realization of becoming an enlightened being. You wanted a question, and Billy, you wanted a question.
Is it possible you've seen emptiness directly in a past life? Would you? I guess you would remember it in the next life, right? Because you see all future lives.
Good question. Yeah, good questions. They say, I don't know as reality, but they say that yes, you at some point during this life you will have a memory and in meditation of having that experience, and then you reset your awareness. Yeah. But it's usually around early on or teenage years, like 11 to 16 is the numbers that I've heard. Yeah. But it doesn't. Once you understand where things come from, it does not mean you can't do that at age 80. Yeah. It does not mean that. It's saying typically. It's like mainly in debate.
When you see emptiness, are you aware of the next like 7 lives?
You are. Yeah, but that awareness doesn't necessarily carry with you as you're born again. You have to. Yeah, you have to.
The 11 to 16 is when you would remember that you saw emptiness.
You'd have experiences that would drive you to understand, to have that understanding again.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Gajana lived for like 600 years, so like 80 would be early on in your life, right?
Cool. Thank you.
So I have this question. Like, let's say that I grew up in a family that always put me down, right? And didn't give me like the best self-esteem or the best, as a child. And as an adult, even though I'm not that kind of person anymore, I'm still holding on to my childhood. I can't let it go.
Yeah.
The question that I have for you is, how would I be able to let go of the child energy and go into adult energy?
Yeah.
Or, it's just like a very confusing type of gray area between childhood and adulthood in this particular age, between 20 and 30.
I'm 48 and I still have impulses from my childhood. Yeah. I'm not saying we'll actually get to cover it after the thing. There's 3 ways that we begin to erode the misconnection to who we think we are, i.e. I think I am the impulses from when I was 13 or 12 because I have a memory of them, right? Neuroscience will have you believe certain things and they function to a degree, but the Buddhists are now going to argue the whole identity that you have. They're going to give you 3 different explanations for getting rid of that hold that they seem to have on you. Yes, so hopefully that'll answer. And Billy, you had a question.
Yeah, does the modern Buddhist school of thought use science to prove theories? Like, we make a reference to the age of 11 to 17, so you have these triggers in it. But we kind of retain the traditional view.
Say that again, sorry, I don't understand the question.
Does the Buddhist school of thought entertain science to prove these paradigms we're talking about?
Maybe not in the way we think of it as science, but for example, we're going to have an argument about atoms, right? Which in Tibetan and in Sanskrit, I can't remember the Sanskrit term, but the Tibetan term refers to like indivisible tiny particles. So it's talking about minute subatomic experience. They don't call it science, they don't call it atomic, they gave it like mini dog names or something. But they are talking essentially about what we in modern times would call scientific approach. Yeah. So when I get to answer those three, that one of them might answer that a little bit. Yeah.
Is there time for one more question?
Yeah.
And how is it that something can be proven because Buddha spoke it to be true?
Yeah, good. ACI 4 also, I think. Yeah, the logical proof, the proof that the Buddha couldn't tell a lie. Yeah. I'm not going to cover it. Trust me. So how about it takes a little while to explain, but in essence it's saying if you can become an enlightened being, if there is such a thing as a perfected being who has stopped suffering, then they couldn't lie, because the way they got there was to be completely moral. So if a being is truly the Buddha for you, and you've experienced the Buddha, and there was such a being on the planet, the only way they could have gotten there is by being in accord with reality, which makes it necessary for that being to be completely true, meaning they cannot speak a lie, because if they did, they could not be Buddhas. They would be in samsara, right? So based on that, then what they say must be true. But then there is the whole art about interpretation, because then he also taught people certain things and said certain things that had to be interpreted. So that's a whole other debate as well.
And also, can lie out of compassion.
Out of compassion, yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean by it gets complicated.
He also said, you know, test these things.
Yeah, he said don't trust me, test them. But if you're already in other words, you're in a monastery debating, that's one of the logical proofs. Yeah, just the Buddha said so. And then this. So let's have a 10-minute break. We come back at 19 past, and I'll do